Right, good evening everybody and welcome to the first licensing meeting of this year. Seems ages since we met. It is actually ages, so but onwards and upwards. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Perrott this evening.
Thank you. Item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. Does anybody have any comments on the previous? Jonathan? Sorry, Councillor Quinn.
Yeah, sorry, just looking at it. I don't think Councillor Ying Perrott was at the last meeting either, but yeah, it's recorded that she attended.
Yes, we do realise that there are some anomalies with the attendance, and the minutes that I'm going to sign will be the correct minutes. Is everybody okay for me to sign them? Okay, I'll do that at the end. Right, declarations of interest. Anybody have any declarations of interest in any of the items that we're going to discuss tonight? Councillor Gordon.
Slightly. I mean, the pavement licence for premises opposite me, Rocco, will slightly affect my business trade, but that's really it, really. That's the only...
Okay, thank you. Right, item 4, public question time. Don't have any members of the public here. I don't believe there's any zoomed in, so we move on to item 5, which is the cumulative impact assessment response to consultation, and I will pass over to Mrs. Bodger for that.
Good evening, Chair and Committee. This report is to update members on the outcome of the public consultation in relation to the cumulative impact assessment and agree next steps in regard to the statement of licensing policy. The Council's current licensing policy was approved by the Licensing Committee on the 7th of April 2021 and must be reviewed after 5 years. At the time the policy was approved, the Council was of the opinion that a cumulative impact assessment, a CIA, for a defined area of Camberley was necessary to promote the licensing objectives in light of evidence from the police in relation to crime and disorder in Camberley Town Centre. As required by the statutory licensing guidance, a 3-yearly review of the Council's CIA has been carried out, including an extensive 8-week consultation exercise with statutory consultees and wider. In total, 1,100 letters and emails were sent, and the consultation was publicised via social media and the Council's website. 6 responses were received in total. No evidence in support of the retention of the CIA was received from the police. The Officer recommendation to the Committee is the Council's licensing authority publishes a statement that, having consulted with a statutory list of consultees and wider, that it is no longer of the opinion that there is a need for a CIA. If the CIA is removed, each application and variation will continue to be determined on its own merits, and any application must be able to demonstrate it will not adversely impact the licensing objectives should it have its application granted. The licensing team monitor compliance with licence conditions, and there are also other measures available to control drinking in the town centre, including the Public Space Protection Order, PSPO, enforced by the police. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Kang.
Yes, thank you for that. Could you refresh us as to why the CIA was put in the first place? And then I have a second question. This consultation, which was 8 weeks, as to when it actually was, you'll have to refresh my memory because I haven't. And as to, you wrote to all the responsible authorities, of which I believe there are about 20 of them. And they're obviously, in terms of responsible authorities, 7 on, but Annex B, in terms of the actual persons involved, about 20. And just that getting 6 replies is something that, how can we base opinion whether to take it forward or not based on 6 replies.
Thank you, Councillor Kang. Initially, the community of impact assessment was put in place because the police requested it. So they provided the evidence of crimes relating to alcohol in Camberley Town Centre for the whole 24-hour period, not necessarily just for the nighttime economy. And it was well supported by the police, and that's why we decided that there was a need for one. Unfortunately, this time around, there has been no response from the police and no evidence or crime statistics provided. Obviously, we need that evidence to be able to create a community of impact assessment.
So when was the consultation actually, the
Yeah, so
8-week period? What was the actual period?
It was, yeah, it was November. I can't remember, because I thought I'd put in here when it started and ended. But I have got the specific date somewhere. But yes, I'm sorry, I didn't include it in my report. But it was, it ended in November, so it started in 2023, yeah, so it started September, October time. I do have the specific dates that I can provide later, if you like.
Did you write specifically by letter, or was it just emails to these responsible authorities?
So emails to responsible authorities, which is the normal way we contact them, and then letters to premises licence holders, personal licence holders, anybody that we thought might have an interest in the licensed premises and the community impact of those licensed premises in the town. So quite a considerable consultation, and obviously social media and council's website as well.
Obviously, you can't chase up the public or anything like that, but where they're responsible authorities, do you sort of chase them up for a reply? You don't do that?
No, we don't chase them up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Quinn.
Like Councillor Kang, I'm slightly concerned that there are only 6 responses to the consultation, and only 3 of those were actually relevant, because it goes on to say that 3 responses from residents were not relevant to the cumulative impact assessment. It says in the proposal an alternative option, so there is no alternative option but to publish a statement saying we've consulted the statutory list of consultees and we're of the opinion that there's no need for a cumulative impact assessment anymore. Is there not an alternative option to extend the consultation or get an official response from the police about this?
The police were unofficially chased by me, not officially, so not on email. So I did speak to the police licensing officer, who spoke to the inspector. Sorry, I've forgotten what was the other part of your question.
So yeah, so firstly, basically, it says there's no alternative option but to accept this report. Could we, if we wanted to extend the consultation period? Because I'm just concerned maybe we want a formal response from the police to consider this. But
there is no alternative, because if we can't produce evidence legally, we can't. If there is no evidence to have a community of impact assessment, we can't legally have one. It has to be up to date and current and applied. The data needs to be specifically for that specific area and for licensed premises. The police informed me that the analysts wouldn't provide the information, and so any information would need to be. It would be an officer having to dig through, find all the information.
Chairman, if I could just add, the police have opportunities to comment on every application, and they're of the view that they have an opportunity to object to licence applications and to ask for reviews or to report back problems with conditions being complied with. So I think it was felt that other measures were in place, and having a cumulative impact assessment didn't control any issues around alcohol. There were other measures that were available.
Councillor Hoad.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask a question to help me understand how the programme works as it is currently. If I understand correctly, it means that we cannot approve any additional licences for premises within that prescribed area. So does that mean then that if a pub, restaurant or whatever with a licence closed down and went out of business, that licence would simply disappear? It couldn't be reassigned to a new business occupying those premises or another new business in the town centre. So if we stay with this programme, we will either have the same or a gradually diminishing number of licensed premises in the town centre.
Thank you, Councillor Hoad. No, the answer to that. So a community of impact assessment has the rebuttal presumption that there would be no applications accepted. However, each application is taken on its own merits, and if we feel that it's not going to impact on the cumulative impact of the density of premises in that area, then as long as it's not contested, the premises licence can still be granted.
Can I just ask then, how does that arrangement differ from what we have anywhere else, which is where if somebody applies for a licence, it's reviewed on its own merits and can be contested?
Precisely why we consider that the community impact assessment isn't necessarily required any longer. So premises, as Francis said, premises licences, applications, so the community of impact would only apply to new premises licence applications or variations, not existing premises licences. Some public houses or restaurants may close down, but that premises licence can be transferred to the next owner of that business and owner of that premises.
Any more questions?
Sorry, follow-up question on that. So if a business closes down, are you saying it's automatically transferred, or do they not have to apply again? Because isn't it the character of the person rather than, or the licence holder that we are judging rather than the premises or the business?
So the premises licence itself, as a document, is then transferred to the next business owner, or whoever takes over, including the conditions that were set then for the previous premises. If they then want to change those, they can ask for a variation, and we go through the whole process again. So either a full variation, which is almost a duplicate of the premises licence application process, or a minor variation, depending on what they're going to change within the premises, or plans, layouts, conditions, even from changing from a public house to a restaurant. So,
The person that takes over the premises licence, though, has to have a personal licence, don't they?
Well, the premises licence holder doesn't necessarily have to have a...
but there has to be some.
Yeah, but there has to be someone on site that holds a personal licence that has done a qualification for responsibilities for selling alcohol.
Councillor Quinn.
I'm confused about the fact that we apparently have no evidence for keeping the area in, because when you look at the responses from the stakeholders that we have received, they all seem to be in favour of retaining the CIA area. I guess maybe they're not particularly addressing the CIA, they're just addressing licensing concerns. But for example, they're talking about drunken behaviour on Park Street, and families with kids not wanting to go into town late at night, this kind of thing. Is this not relevant to the... Right, okay.
Sorry, yes, precisely. It doesn't. It's not. Their responses weren't relevant to the consultation.
Councillor Hoad.
Thank you. Can I just ask, the cynic in me wonders whether some of the respondents who chose to engage when invited to might be existing licence holders within the town centre for whom controlling the number or the volume of competition would be in their interests. Do we know whether the respondents were particularly skewed to people who are existing businesses operating in the town centre who would benefit from maintaining the status quo?
Yes, that could be the case, and yeah. I'm not quite sure I need to answer anything to that view. So yeah, that could be the case.
I think what we have to realise is that the police actually instigated the original cumulative impact assessment, and they now do not feel that it is necessary anymore. So really, I think that's what we're looking at. It's the police that brought it forward, and it's the police that now do not think it's necessary. So that's what we have to look at.
So are the police confirming that those conditions are no longer valid, in a way? What they saw in 2021 is not there anymore. Have they confirmed that? Or is it just they haven't replied?
So they haven't officially replied, just through conversations with myself. So that, there may well be crime and disorder in the town. It may well be linked to alcohol licensed premises. But if they can't produce the evidence, then we can't have a policy. We need to have robust and up-to-date evidence, because we could be judicially reviewed. There would be instances where, let's say, a licence was refused, and one of the big breweries would judicially review the policy. So it needs to be up to date. So recent evidence, we can't rely on the evidence from 2020 and, robust enough for us to stand behind it.
So the assumption is that because there's no evidence, and obviously the police not able to produce it, and therefore they don't need to apply this. So you've answered the question that original conditions are no longer there.
Well, the original evidence, we can't use the original evidence from 2020 because it's too old.
Councillor Quinn.
Yeah, sorry to keep pushing this, but is it a case that the police have said, we don't think this is necessary anymore, or is it a case that they haven't had the resources to put together the evidence that we would need to keep this, or that's why we've not got an official reply?
So both, really. They've said that they don't think it's necessary anymore, but then also they haven't got the resources to collate the figures and provide the evidence.
Okay, so, sorry, Councillor Gordon.
Just think that it's important we recognise that recently the culture has changed. The nighttime economy is far quieter. The trouble's far calmed down. There are less incidents now. If you go to the pub watch meetings, the licensees are far less concerned about issues in town centre now. So the culture change and the controls being put in place have worked. So there's probably no real need for it. And I deal with the police on a regular basis for licensing issues. If the police had concerns, we'd be the first to know about it. They wouldn't sit back and... They have not bothered to do this so far. They haven't bothered because they're not concerned by it. That's the way to take it with the police. They'd be the first person to come here and sing and shout and make a big song and dance out of it. Trust me on that one.
Okay, so we'll go to the recommendation, which is the committee is advised to resolve that the council, as licensing authority, publishes a statement that, having consulted with the statutory list of consultees and wider, that it is no longer of the opinion that there is a need for the CIA assessment and the Surrey Heath Borough Council licensing policy 2021, and 2, the CIA ceased to apply from the end of the 3rd year, 6th of April 2024. Does everybody agree? Great, thank you. Right, item 6, pavement licence update. I believe that's Mrs. Barnshaw again.
Thank you, Chair. This report, so my second report, has been prepared to update members on the changes the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act 2023 has made to the Business and Planning Act 2020 with regard to pavement licences. The Act makes the temporary pavement licence provisions introduced during the COVID pandemic a permanent borough council function. The report seeks member approval for the maximum permissible fees for pavement licence to be set at £350 for renewal applications and £500 for new applications to ensure full cost recovery, and also recommends that the licence duration be increased to 2 years from its current 1 year licence period. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions? Councillor Rakes.
Yeah, specifically in the minutes of the last licensing committee, we asked that the payment licence be exempted for charities and community organisations. So I'm a bit confused as why that isn't part of this recommendation. Is that allowable under the changed legislation, and why wasn't it in that report?
We haven't currently had any applications from charities or community interest companies for this current licence period. We have 13 pavement licences and none of those are charities, so the exemption hasn't been applied so far. I don't think that we're actually going to get any more pavement licence applications than we already have. I think they're business-led, they've had them out, tables and chairs on the pavement during the summer, sometimes during the winter, but to increase the capacity of the premises itself.
So it's not going to have an effect either way. So can the will of the committee be put into that going forward?
We don't.
If it's not going to have a significant effect anyway.
We don't actually offer any other concessions for charities or community interest companies with regard to licence fees. So, if it was a premises licence application, they'd still be required to pay for that. That was why it wasn't recommended.
Councillor Thienecook.
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering if there's a mechanism for people to be able to pay monthly or quarterly for these new licence fees, because they're quite a lot for start-up independent businesses to chunk out in one go. Is that something that we can arrange?
Not really, no, because the premises the pavement licence application, the actual application itself requires a full fee to be paid in one instance. It will last for with the committee agreement for 2 years rather than 1 year.
Sorry, if I could just come back, Chair. So there would be no way that a renewal could be paid over several months. If they could put the application in as part of their start-up costs, but then, smaller businesses could perhaps string that out over a year. Is that not something? Is it something we would be unable to do, or just something that we don't do currently?
If I can come back, Councillor Thienecook. Just checking with the officer, it is in the legislation that we need to receive the fee up front, and that's fairly typical of most of the licensing legislation that we deal with. The other thing I would add in, most of the premises that have a pavement licence, when we provide that licence, it gives them the opportunity to effectively double their trading space. So they have double the amount of covers, and therefore it actually doubles their potential income as a consequence. So actually it's quite profitable for such a minimal fee. It's for a business to be able to increase its square footage so substantially for such a small amount of money is very, very viable for them.
Councillor Hoad.
Thank you. I'm broadly in support of this increase, as I do think it's important that the payment for these kind of activities covers the costs incurred by the council to deliver them. But it is a big jump, and I'm concerned, I think, about applicants who are unsuccessful. Do we have an arrangement whereby if someone applies for this kind of licence but it's not approved, that they would the fee would be waived or they would be charged a reduced administration fee, because this is quite a lot to pay and then and then find that you don't get a pavement licence at the end of it. Thank you.
We would we engage obviously with people that apply for pavement licence, and the discussions are made beforehand. I don't think we've refused one yet in the since 2020, since we've been doing. There will be discussions about the size, restrictions, and maybe they've asked for a larger area than they would necessarily be entitled to. So we've never actually had to refuse one yet.
Okay, so I think what you're saying then is kind of informal conversations ahead of time mean that somebody whose licence would be declined is kind of carefully told that they shouldn't apply and put their money into it. Okay, thank you.
Normally, they would only be declined if the pavement area they're asking to use it's not a usable space. I think that's usually the only reason, isn't it? I think because we had that in Bagshot, and they wanted to put tables outside, and there just wasn't the footway. That's usually the only reason it gets. And I believe there is only one other pavement licence outside of Camberley, isn't there?
Yes.
Which is in Bagshot. Everything else is in the Camberley town centre, and they're established businesses. Any other questions? I think I'd have got used to that by now, wouldn't you? Okay, so we go to the recommendation. Committee is advised to resolve that the fee for applications for a pavement licence be increased under the provisions of the Business and Planning Act 2020, as amended by the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act 2023, Schedule 22. From 1st of October 2024, the licence period increased to 2 years, as set out in 2.2 and 2.3. Is everybody in agreement? Thank you. Moving on to item 7, licensing and environment health team annual verbal update. I'll move to you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very pleased to be able to provide the committee tonight with an update on the work that's been undertaken by Environmental Health and Licensing over the last year. As members will be aware, this work relates to a wide range of statutory functions primarily aimed at protecting public health and safety, environmental control, prevention of crime and disorder, and protecting the vulnerable. Looking first at licensing, across the Environmental Health and Licensing services, service officers are responsible for licensing, registering or consenting a wide range of activities, which include taxis, premises and clubs that sell alcohol and provide regulated entertainment, late night refreshment, personal licences to sell alcohol. Also, we license temporary events, gambling premises and gaming machines, small lotteries and charity collections, the pavement licensing, animal activities, street trading, skin piercing, scrap metal dealers, and also issue road closures. Inquiries and complaints relating to these activities are responded to by officers, and also proactive inspections are carried out, including out of hours, to ensure that the licensing requirements are being complied with. We do a lot of multi-agency enforcement initiatives with police, trading standards and the fire service. And in 2023, we had 6 such initiatives taking place, targeting non-compliance with taxi driver and vehicle licensing requirements and underage sales of alcohol. And where non-compliance is identified, appropriate follow-up action is taken to secure compliance. Enforcement action can be taken in the form of licences being suspended, revoked and reviewed. Hackney driver's licence was revoked in 2023 on the grounds of not being a fit and proper person to hold a licence following a serious altercation with another driver at a town centre taxi rank. There was a right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days against the revocation, but no appeal was received. The committee will be aware that the licensing subcommittee sat in July last year to hear a review of a premises licence for a club in the Old Dean, which was requested by the police following a serious violent incident. The subcommittee suspended the club premises certificate for a period of 28 days and required the club to improve staff training and review club policies, and enhanced conditions were added to the licence regarding sale of alcohol, CCTV, door staff, pub watch membership and closer control of guests to the club. The senior licensing officer has weekly meetings with the police, and the environmental health and licensing service are represented at the town centre and village pub watch meetings. Also in licensing this year, as you'll be aware from the items on the agenda, work's been going on review of the cumulative impact area and the changes to the pavement licensing regime. Looking at food and health and safety, the work of the environmental health team is reported in detail to the committee in the annual service plan, which took place in June last year and will again be in June this year. The priorities in the plans are focused on and concentrate on the activities presenting the greatest risks. The Council's proactive food inspection programme and the health and safety intervention programmes are in line with the Food Standard Agency and Health and Safety Executive requirements, and also reactive investigations are undertaken in response to complaints, food poisoning, notifications, national food safety incidents and accidents at work. There are 700 food businesses in the borough, and they're of a high standard. 97.5% have a rating of satisfactory, good or very good, and those receiving food and safety visits from officers in customer surveys, 100% have said that they feel they've been treated fairly and that the officer was polite, helpful and knowledgeable. When contraventions of food legislation are identified, there's a graduated approach to enforcement with formal action as a last resort. Last year, action has been taken in relation to food safety for a voluntary closure of a business for a mouse infestation in Windlesham, and hygiene improvement notices were served on 4 businesses for inadequate food safety management systems, poor staff training and pest proofing, poor cleanliness and damaged food preparation surfaces. The committee will be aware that there was an emergency closure by officers of a restaurant in Bagshot at the end of 2022, and this was successfully brought to a prosecution in 2023 for food hygiene offences. The business was fined £25,000 in order to pay a victim surcharge of £2,000 and costs of £14,000. The premises was closely monitored by officers following the incident, and the business is now under new ownership and compliant with required standards. There's a proactive programme of food sampling carried out by the food safety team in line with UK Health Security Agency national food sampling programmes, and also a programme of imported food sampling, which the team has been able to do, having successfully applied for a grant from the Food Standard Agency. The team work with national businesses through the Primary Authority Partnership Scheme, which is a scheme whereby one local authority will work with a company that has a number of outlets across the country. And this is self-funding because it's paid for by the businesses concerned, and we currently have 11 such partnerships. In 2023, the Service also introduced a new charge service providing food export certificate attestation at the request of a food exporter that's based in the borough, and this increases income generation for the council. And the food team has also been working with Surrey County Council Public Health on a pilot Eat Well award for those food businesses offering a healthier choice on their menu. The first 2 such awards have been made to Frimley Lodge Park Cafe and the Lightwater Country Park Cafe, and help to contribute to the council's ongoing whole systems approach to obesity work. Moving on to health and safety, the team has been involved with a major electrical safety project which was started in 2023, looking at electrical safety in hospitality premises, particularly in outside seating areas. 80 local pubs, restaurants and cafes have been contacted, asking them to ensure outdoor electrical equipment, such as sockets, lights and heaters, are specifically designed for outdoor use, installed by a competent person and checked regularly. A guidance leaflet was provided to the businesses, and they were asked to provide a copy of their current electrical installation condition report, and officers are now concentrating on visiting those premises that haven't complied with that request. The team also had a busy year in relation to safety at public events, with multi-agency safety advisory group meetings being convened for a number of their coronation events, the Frimley Green Carnival, Run Frimley 2023 and the Camberley Car Show, in addition to advising on safety for a number of other small events and coordinating the required road closures. And lastly, I move on to the environmental control work of environmental health. The main part of this team's work is the investigation of complaints from residents about noise, light, smoke, rubbish and pest infestations. While most complaints, again, can be resolved informally, in 2023, 5 formal notices was served to resolve resident complaints, particularly regarding noise from construction work and pest problems. The team are also responsible for carrying out routine air quality monitoring, and we have a real-time monitoring station adjacent to the M3, diffusion tubes at 51 sites across the borough measuring nitrogen dioxide, and we also deploy our portable air quality monitor, which we were able to purchase with a successful DEFRA grant in 2023, and this is being deployed at sites around the borough to raise awareness of air quality issues. The team also deals with the permitting of prescribed polluting processes, which include dry cleaners, petrol stations, a pet food manufacturer and vehicle paint sprayers. And this team also responds to land search inquiries and planning and licensing and vehicle operator consultations with regard to likely polluting impacts. And they are also concerned with assessing the health implications of contaminated land sites across the borough. This team also oversee the contracts that we have for stray dog collection and kennelling, for providing pest control treatments to residents in the borough, and also the out-of-hours noise contract that we currently have, although that is being brought to an end at the end of March, and as part of the base budget review, due to the low use of that service will be ending at the end of March. And that was a whistle-stop tour through what DEH and licensing have done in 2023, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. It just shows you that the licensing is not the quiet committee or department that everybody thinks it is. Councillor Rakes.
Yeah, I just have a question. In these days of online delivery of food, an incident came up a few months ago where we found that food was being delivered through one of the online platforms from a restaurant which had apparently been closed down, which it seemed eventually came from a dark kitchen somewhere outside the borough. And I just wonder, I see this is a horrible question of how you deal with it, but is there any, how do we check that food being delivered in Surrey, and is there a way of checking the food delivered through those services actually meets the conditions? Is there a way of legislating for dark kitchens, kitchens that are not attached to a restaurant?
I mean, dark kitchens would need to be registered. So if the dark kitchen is outside our borough, it would need to be registered with the borough where it's located. And if the premises was trying to operate under the radar, intelligence may come to the council in terms of complaints, which then would follow up with the online business to find out where the food's actually being prepared and follow that back up with the local authority where they're based. But yeah, that's becoming more common. Mr. Steve.
Sorry, Chair, if you don't mind. Just to add to that, Councillor Rakes, the online delivery platforms actually have a requirement that the food premises that trade on their sites have to be broadly compliant, so they have to be a 3 rating or more. So actually what it has helped to do in some instances is drive up compliance amongst takeaway premises, because clearly they could act or operate with a 0, 1 or 2, with most customers being oblivious, but in order to trade on those platforms they have to be 3 or more now.
Yeah, in this particular case, I asked the platform for how they had evidence that this restaurant complied, and there was some to and fro, and eventually they just took it off the platform. But I didn't get any satisfaction as to them identifying who was the licensing authority, who was it. But we're fundamentally complaint driven. So my follow-up question is really, is it worth making sure that residents understand that if they have some incident as a result of a delivery and a takeaway, you know, through one of the platforms, that they should raise this with the council to make sure that something goes back through the system to try and make sure those things.
Yeah, I mean, we do have on our council website, the food safety pages, signposting people to come to environmental health if they have complaints. And we do get a number of complaints directly to the council, and also if there's a food poisoning that's confirmed, that they are notified to us. So sometimes that's how we became aware of the problem with the restaurant in Bagshot, was due to salmonella notifications coming in that we then could associate with the particular premises.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have one quick one then. So there's satisfactory, good and very good. So I take it that very good is 5, good is 4 and satisfactory is 3 and just 3.
Yes.
So 2 and 1 you shouldn't be allowed to.
Or 0.
Or 0. Okay. So those that get satisfactory, which is 3, are they encouraged or are they told that they have to get up to a good or a very good?
I mean, satisfactory is compliance with the legislation, and the Food Standard Agency, when the National Food Hygiene Rating Scheme came in, were clear that it wasn't an intention that we were to push premises over and above compliance with the legislation, but obviously that is driven by premises, wanting to have the 4 or the 5 rating, preferably the 5, and there is a re-rating scheme where people can pay to have another unannounced re-rating inspection to improve. But we will always, when we do an inspection, leave a written report advising of any minor contraventions or good practice recommendations, and to encourage people to be able to achieve the higher ratings.
And I'd just like to confirm that all inspections are on the hoof. They're never announced.
Yes, there are always unannounced inspections, unless it's a home caterer. If it's a domestic premises, we do have to make an appointment.
Okay, any more questions? Everybody happy to accept the report? Okay, thank you. Item 8, licensing subcommittee minutes. We've already referred to this in the report, so is everybody content for me to sign the minutes of the subcommittee meeting? Okay, thank you. And item 9, summary of decisions. Is that you again, Paula? Yeah.
Thank you. So the report details a number of decisions granted using the powers delegated to officers by the committee, and this is only for applications and variations to licences which have been uncontested. So any contested applications would be brought before the licensing subcommittee.
Anybody have any questions on any of those? Okay, recommendation is to note. Sorry.
Just a question. I was very interested in B&M retail here. Obviously, license. I mean, do we have a problem with methanol in this? Obviously, a DIY through a store sell sort of solvents and things like that. And are there any control measures? Does that come under licensing?
No, so this would only be alcohol for consumption. So licensable activity is a consumption of alcohol or the sale of alcohol. So methanol is not for consumption.
Yeah, I see. Yes, it's obviously then, but they
yeah,
illegally they do consume. So methanol drinkers. The other thing is storage of flammable liquids. I mean, is that something that you also undertake?
So not under the not for alcohol licensing. No, not.
or licenses in general? Safety. Okay. All right. Just.
Okay, so we're content to note the report. Thank you. So item 10, work programme. Anybody want this one? Right, if we all had a look at the work programme, and anybody got anything they would like to add to it, or any of the officers, any items they would like to add to it, or we just accept it as it is?
So yeah, we added obviously the Gambling Act to it. I haven't got any further to add. Anything else to add to you, Francis? No.
No. So, obviously, we've got the standing items of the Food Safety and Health and Safety Service plans, which will come to the June committee, and then the update the annual update, February next year, and then the Gambling Act statement of principles that's due for renewals. So we will be coming to the committee asking the consultation and a new policy.
Sorry, I should have said that on microphone. Thank you very much, everybody.